In this episode of Pending and Trending, I sit down with Lindsay Good, a powerhouse Philly agent who's making waves in the Delaware Beach market. We talk about everything from short term rentals to hacking a shifting market and why Delaware is becoming an investor's dream. Whether you're an agent, an investor, or just love real estate, Lindsay drops real actionable insight you won't want to miss. Welcome to Pending and Trending. I am your host, Deidre Quinn, and this podcast is all about helping real estate agents stay ahead in today's fast-moving market. With over 20 years of experience and a passion for building relationships, I bring you the latest tips, trends, and strategies to elevate you and your business. Whether you're looking to dominate a niche, stay sharp on industry shifts, or build your own generational wealth, you are in the right place. Let's get to it, because what's trending today can get you pending tomorrow. Deidre Quinn. I'm a top realtor with over 20 years experience in real estate. As a host of Pending and Trending, I share insider tips, market trends, and expert strategies to empower agents to build thriving businesses and create lasting wealth. Through interviews with top producing agents, industry innovators, high impact speakers, I like to offer actionable advice for real estate professionals and others that want to build their wealth. So it doesn't necessarily have to just be geared towards agents as we're talking. And I'd like to introduce Lindsay Good. Lindsay is a licensed real estate agent based in the Philadelphia area, affiliated with Compass since 2011, I believe. Specialize in residential sales and relocation services, rentals throughout the Philadelphia area, but also in the Delaware Beaches. Your expertise covers listings, buyer representation, leasing, staging, and also you get involved in the short-term rental business as well, which we'll dive into throughout the call. So since 2011, Lindsay, the market's changed a ton, right? We know that. And what would you say are some of the biggest changes that you've had to navigate since 2011?
I would say since the beginning, social media has taken over everything, I would say. Number one, as you and I both know, it really was non-existent. It was existing back then. It just wasn't what it is now. So I think a lot of people, their presence online is important as an agent because that's really your business card nowadays. And also just contracts, obviously regulations around how you work with clientels now. And obviously the NAR changes with representation. I would say that's been another big pull in the last even 6 months to a year. And then I would say, and there's a lot of online and TVs and HGTV and all that. There's a lot of interest in real estate now, more than years ago. So I think a lot more people are getting into renovations and things like that. I would say those are like the big changes I'm seeing just to start off with. And also just with the renovations and so forth, people are getting into Airbnbs and people are really drawing an interest in real estate in general now, more than they were 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And it makes sense, right? Because if you look at it historically over time, real estate appreciates. So during that time period, it's a great way to build wealth. You are going to invest and hold for any length of time. It's likely to appreciate during that time period, right?
Absolutely.
As far as a shift in client expectation, what have you seen from as far as that goes? And what would you advise our listeners from as far as that goes? Client expectations have changed throughout this process as well. So we're not the same, you're not the same agent as you were in 2011. Clients expect a different level of service and different things from you. And what are some of those things that we can share with our listeners?
Absolutely. I think people really genuinely look for, first of all, people look for someone they can trust. And they want to be, usually people are looking for referrals and they're trying to find someone they're connected to that agent with. So they're looking for someone they can trust. They're looking for someone who can bring market local expertise. They don't just want to pop online and find somebody based on, reviews matter, but they really want to find someone that who has the local expert opinion about the area that they're shopping in. And I would say a connection too. Connections are important. People really want to connect with their agent. I would say not all people have to have that connection because investors are not really people looking for a connection, but buyers and sellers really want to make sure they can connect with you as well. And I would say those are the biggest things I would say are the things I would highlight.
Yeah, yeah. I think the first thing you said was trust. I agree. That is such a huge thing and makes everything flow much smoother when you have that trust relationship between clients and agents.
Hmm.
What how do you leverage technology and social media to help your clients both from a buyer and seller standpoint?
It's a great question. I would say I really do work with I work with videographers, photographers, and I'm really looking to take things from more of a basic perspective. I'm trying to do different things. I'm trying to do videos and things like that to draw people in. So it's, I'm not always trying to, I'm looking at what other agents are doing, but I'm also trying to take another spin on things and saying, okay, what else can I offer my clients? Also, Compass Technology, I obviously used to be with KW and another brokerage, Century 21, but Compass, the brokerage I'm currently with, does offer some great access to resources and also an application that is very user friendly. And they have access to, I think clients really do want some ease with access to software nowadays. And most people are looking on apps and looking on Zillow, Compass, whatever you want to say out there. They're looking on apps first before they really call you sometimes. So I think having the right technology to use is really important nowadays. And I will say, I think the Compass technology platform is pretty top of the line for clients in terms of ease and navigation. And I would say, trying to think of what else. I would start off with that first.
Okay.
So,
Okay, great. So we talked a little bit before. We're gonna change gears here a little bit now. I know you're a Philadelphia agent, however, you also have a huge focus in the Delaware Beach market. So what's the difference between the Delaware beaches and the Jersey Shore, and what are the opportunities like in the Delaware beaches? Why do you choose to represent that area?
So I went to school in Delaware. I was a blue hen. So I already had a connection to the state right off the bat. And I think Delaware, there's something just different. It's a little bit more of a compact coastline from Fenwick up to Lewis. I think a lot of people come to this market for a more relaxed environment, family friendly vibe down there. They come down for lower taxation, tax free shopping. I would say the lower cost, the beaches are free to access. And also, rentals are a lot less expensive, I would say. Charming towns. We have some historic towns like Lewis, and they really don't. I mean, there's a lot of development happening down here, but also they really are trying to maintain the charms of the towns from Lewis to Rehoboth to Dewey down to Bethany, Fenwick as well. There's a lot of walkability too. So when you're staying in town, you have a lot of walkability and a lot of
Mhm.
things to do within the area. And I would say there's less rules. People say that all the time. I don't always see the Jersey Shores having a lot of rules, but I think there's a lot less restrictions down here as well. So I would think those are definitely some of the highlights of why people are attracted to this area.
Okay, okay.
Your money goes farther too.
Yeah, so speaking of that, let's talk about that a little bit from investment opportunities there. What does that look like? Are there still good opportunities in the Delaware beaches? And what does that look like from an investment standpoint?
It's definitely, prices have definitely increased significantly in the last 5 years. So it's not the same as it was years ago. There are still opportunities to be had here. You just have to decide what proximity to the beaches you really want. Do you want to be walkable? Because if you want to be walkable to things, there's a higher level, there's a higher premium, there's a cost premium for that. But there's a lot of opportunities. So much development happening because there's so much farmland in this area. And there's a lot of communities popping up, a lot of empty nesters moving down here. So there's a lot of opportunities for new construction where you can get in early before they're done with the project, and you can probably buy in at a lower price by the time they're finished with the project. Usually, as you and I both know, new construction phase one or the beginning, you get it at a better price, the end, and usually have built-in equity from the by the end of the project. So there's communities popping up all over. It really depends on what you're looking for. But if you're trying to be in that prime location to the beaches, there are opportunities, but you really have to be willing to spend a little bit more money and also maybe roll up your sleeves a little bit and do some extra work as well. But I still think the price valuation down here, it's a lot easier to get in down here because the cost is still at a lower premium versus the Jersey Shore.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, so you pay a little bit more to get in closer to closer to the beaches, closer to the town area, such as Rehoboth or Dewey Beach. So, as far as short-term rentals, if somebody wants to invest and then rent it, what does that look like from a standpoint of regulations? What does that look like from a standpoint of demand?
I would say I was actually just talking with a few clients this past week, and demand's actually down a little bit this year too, with in terms of like rentals right now. However, I think it's more of a normal rental market at this point. We've seen a huge increase the last 3, 4 years post COVID, like during COVID and right after COVID. But there is some regulations. They're definitely coming down strict, a little bit more strict on rentals. A lot of the new developments coming that they're building, you'll find out right off the bat as you're inquiring about this comp or the communities that some of them have 1 or 2 week minimums, sometimes 30-day minimums. So they are definitely putting restrictions because there was a saturation during COVID of rentals, and everyone was flip-flopping from weekend rentals to weekly rentals. And also some people were doing long-term rentals are now flipping over to active short-term rentals on a regular. So just because the money was there, the money and the amount of people were seeing the opportunities of the potential with the long-term rentals, you don't make as much money as the short term. So
Right.
people are seeing the opportunities out there, but they're also seeing that there are rules coming into place. The towns are cracking down a lot more. However, they're still trying to make it a rental friendly environment. So they're not trying to crack down too much down here. But there are some areas, the newer developments, that's where you're seeing more restrictions in place right now. Not as much of the already established built homes in the area. They don't have as many regulations. They are putting some rules into place, but it's not as many as you would think. I know Philadelphia market's a lot more strict now with certain things, as is New York and other cities like that. But they're still not as strict down here, but there are some new rules they're putting in place.
Okay. So basically, there's rules, but if you want to get a rental license in
Still possible.
places where the communities are not saying it's not a new build and they're saying we're not allowing rentals less than a week or 2 weeks or whatever,
Yeah.
that it is still possible to get those rental licenses and do
Correct.
short-term rentals. And then how long is your rental season? What's your short-term rental season? Is it year round? Is it April? Is it through October? Is it just the summertime? What does that look like for an investor that's
Absolutely. Busy season starts, I would say the busier season starts in June, but April and May are still good months to rent down here. People start coming down for events. And I would say the short term market lasts until now October. There's a lot of
okay?
music festivals down this area as well. So it really is pushing out into the holiday season. People still come down here until November, December. I would say there's really only 2 months that really it's quiet, truly quiet down here. And I would say it's January, February. But the peak season, I would say, is probably really May through October, the prime.
Okay.
Yep.
And I understand that demand has shifted a little bit for short-term
Mhm.
rentals, right? So people are saying, oh, I'm not renting my place as much, or what does that look like from your perspective? And is it hurting your people that are short-term renting right now, or is it business as usual and they're packed full for the summer?
It's still business as usual. The beach market's going to sell itself. And it's also going to always have a demand with rentals. But I think also some people are still renting, but they're shifting out of sometimes rentals because maybe they've had a lot of wear and tear over the years. And they're just like, they're not wanting to see, or maybe that income is not as important sometimes. They'll say, hey, I'll rent it for 6 to 7 weeks, but then I'm going to use it myself or limit the rental market because there is a lot of wear and tear with short term rentals.
Right.
And that can really hurt the value of your home. So I think you're definitely going to see there's always going to be demand. Like I said, the beach market, I've been coming down here since college, pre college, before college. And there's always going to be that demand of people I think the demand for before and after season has spiked a lot more interest down here, but you're still going to always have that demand.
Okay. And then as far as so you still have the demand in the summer months. And then as
Mhm.
far as you touched on it a little bit, people are choosing to short-term rent in a lot of cases as opposed to long-term rent because the dollars are higher, right? So how does that impact the long-term rentals? So if someone wants to rent a place for a year or 2 years, or they're working at at the Delaware beaches and they need
Mhm.
year-round housing, like what does that look like?
There are options just because I've personally explored this with clients too, who maybe couldn't necessarily purchase a home in the area
Mhm.
or the location that they want. So there are still homeowners that are willing to do it. It's just you're going to spend still a premium for the whole year. It's not going to be the same premium as the summer market, but there are options for that. It's just, it's very few and far between depending on the location preference. If you're willing to be drivable to the beach, I'd say a 5 to 10 minute drive, you'll have tons of options. But if you want to be walkable downtown Rehoboth, downtown Lewis, downtown Dewey, it's a premium. And also when you find something, you can't let it go. You have to sign a lease and you have to lock it in right away because someone else is probably going to come along and snatch it up. But there are people who do have interest in doing that because you and I both know long-term leases, there's less headaches along the way. There's less things to worry about. And also the people who are in there more on a long-term basis are taking care of your home more on it's their home. They really are taking care of it like it's their own. So there is a benefit there with on that perspective as well. So there are options out there. It's just not as many. It's just location based.
Yeah, okay, that's great. That brings up a really good point because, right, when you have a long-term rental, the tenants typically paying the utilities, most of them
Mhm.
anyway. There's no turnaround as far as, okay, no in and out and making sure someone gets in. There's no doing all of the wash and doing all of the turnover, the cleaning, all of that, right? So it does take away some of
Mhm.
those headaches. So you have a lot of clients, I imagine, that say, oh, you know what, I'm going to buy a property and then I'm going to short-term rent it, right? And I
Mhm.
know that I have the similar. I think sometimes people try to do the short-term rental thing and maybe it doesn't work out the way that they planned, or maybe it's a lot more work than they planned. So it doesn't work for everybody. It's not necessarily the answer for everybody. So how do you guide your clients through that? And what do you say to them to prepare them for some of that?
I do show the value in hiring a property manager first off. If you want to have rentals, period, you must have a property manager to help out, especially with short-term rentals. You cannot do it unless you live close by. You must have top tier management to help and someone who's very knowledgeable, has the resources, the vendors, and also has the ability or the software to manage it. That's number one. You have to have that. And if you are not set up to, a lot of people get into short-term rentals because they think it's easy money, just like a lot of things in the world out there. But short-term rentals they're not easy, and they're definitely not easy. They're not always as lucrative. Your first year, I always say, is like you're just trying to break even because you have to get it all set up. You have to build that clientele. You want people from previous years to come back again and again. And people are not looking for the same things that they were looking for 5 years ago during the beginning of COVID. People were just looking for an escape. Now people want experiences. They usually want like large places where they can gather with their families, because if you can go somewhere and get a hotel, it's a lot less costly. But if you can get everyone together in a larger home where everyone's in one place, that's what people are looking for. Somewhere where they can bring like their family, their friends, gather together. And it's not money matters, but also people who go through Airbnb or short-term rentals, they're not looking for what they're looking for in hotels, because they can go get a hotel anywhere pretty much out there. So it's an experience. It's the space they want for the family, friends, and also it's what amenities you might offer too, like luxuries and things like that, like hot tubs, saunas, outdoor things, outdoor experiences, decks, patios, just whatever extra things you're adding that kind of add benefits to their stay. That's what they're more so looking for.
So they're looking for an experience more
Experience.
than just a place to rest their head because they could
Correct.
easily go and get a hotel for that. And you have
Mhm.
plenty of hotels up and down the Delaware beaches that people could
100%.
get a hotel. So do you recommend instead of purchasing a one or a two bedroom condo, that they purchase a four or five, six bedroom house? Is that the
It's good. I'm glad you brought that up because I've gone back and forth about this. I do to add I like to add value to properties. So like making a 3 bedroom into a 5 bedroom type house so you can add more value. But bigger houses are a lot more maintenance. So
good
it's
point?
a market. There's a market for the big houses, but there's so much more wear and tear for those. So you have to be prepared for that. You have to have extras of everything. You have to have towels, inventory, everything, and you have to provide a really good high level experience. However, there's a market for 1, 2, 3 bedroom condos. People don't want to spend that kind of money. There's also people looking for that like really small, unique stay too. Maybe they just want to be like on the water with perfect views where they can open up their balcony door and hear the ocean breeze every day. Offer that. There are people willing to spend a premium for a smaller space for an awesome luxury stay away from home. So there's a market for both. I really, truly, I do think that. And I used to be all about the bigger, the better, but now I'm also realizing the bigger, the better. It's a lot more wear and tear, a lot more expense. You have to be prepared for that. So,
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I understand that you have some short-term rentals of your own. Is that correct?
yes.
So, what things do you have to navigate, and what would you tell people to watch out for as far as when they are doing that? Like, they should get a property manager, so there's an
Mhm.
expense for that. So, when they're doing their numbers, they should be working in a property manager. What kind of issues have come up that you've had to navigate? What would you tell them to watch out for as far as when they're just getting in and getting started?
I think you have to know your numbers right off the bat. I think there's been some times where people just they just buy houses. They don't actually run the numbers. You have to run the numbers. You have to know like lowest, highest end, the best, worst case scenarios of like where your numbers, where you want to be at with your numbers. Property management, you have to have someone who has systems set up. It's all about the systems and the process because they have to have the resources, the cleaners, the vendors, sorry, your contractors, whoever can take care of things. Because the biggest hiccups when you get into short-term rentals are those calls that you get on a Saturday night where maybe you're out at an event and your property, if you don't have a property manager, you have to be able to take those calls. Things happen all the time at short-term rentals.
Sure.
Whether you like to admit it or not, it's always whenever you're not prepared for it. So you have to be able to navigate issues and solve problems very quickly. If you don't want to hire the property manager, you have to be prepared to have people ready to go take care of problems. And you're going to have a lot more people are a little bit more higher maintenance now with the Airbnb short-term rentals. They expect more because there's a big hype around short-term rentals. So their expectations may be a little bit higher than what you maybe set. You didn't set the expectations up front with them. So you have to have the right people in place to help solve these problems because problems arise. And I'm trying to think of what else. I'm trying to think of personally issues, things break, things happen, things, situations, also people's with expectations. People may have expected that you had something to offer where maybe they misread something. And then when they got there, they were like, wait a minute, I thought you had this to offer. And they didn't read the fine print carefully enough. So you have to be able to navigate and have those conversations and be ready to have conversations with people. Don't try to hide behind things. If you have an issue, attack it right away, approach the people, try to solve it very quickly because you don't want bad reviews, you don't want problems. And once you just have to like really attack things right away because it's just never going to make anything easier. And stays, depending on how long they're staying, weekly stays, short term, like 2 to 3 night stays or weekly stays, it's a different experience for those two clientels as well. Like short term ones, they'll be in and out within 1 or 2 days. So a problem may arise, but it may not be as big of a problem if they're out within a day or so. But a weekly stay, you better take care of that right away because it could be something where you cannot let it just go for a week. So being able to tackle problems as they arise. I hate to always harp on the property management. You have to have property managers. We tried it without it. We personally tried it. And it's so much effort. It's so much hassles. My friends saw it in me. It really takes a lot out of you, to be honest. And it's just, you're back and forth. You're constantly managing everything. And some people can have the time for that. But as a realtor, I just don't have time to constantly like navigate all those. I just need to have someone else out there helping me to take care of everything.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And I've heard you say that a few times in a couple of different ways. So the bottom line to our listeners, if you are going to do short-term rentals, which we call STRs, if first
yeah.
that you put in your budget to hire a property manager because
Mhm.
even if you try to do it by yourself, you're going to end up probably hiring a property manager. And then if you didn't account for that in the beginning, your numbers aren't going to work, and that's not going to make for a great short-term rental experience. That's great. That's really good advice. And
Mhm.
then what now, as far as your personal short-term rentals, have you seen a huge change in those in being able to fill them? or are you staying pretty steady and getting renters on a regular basis?
For the most part, we're getting what we expected. Last year, I definitely saw a little bit of a downturn. And this year, we reapproached some things after we saw a little bit of a downturn last year. We were revisiting things, thinking, and we were checking our properties to see what can we do differently to stand out from other people? Like, how can we get clients and what can we do that will really incentivize clients to choose our home? So you have to just stand out. You have to add amenities. You have to do certain things that people are looking for. I think you just have to like reevaluate sometimes when you're seeing potentially a shift. But we definitely have seen a little bit of a shift. But with the reevaluation and looking to see how we can make our properties better, that's helped us. Now we do have, like my brother and I, we have one 8-bedroom house together up in the Poconos, and there's not many 8 bedrooms up there. So 8 bedrooms it is sought after. So it does attract a lot of people, because there's not a lot of options out there. So staying ahead of knowing what your competition is. And also, as if you're seeing a shift, take a look out there at the competition. Always go out there and look to see who you're competing with. Go out there and maybe call people, ask them what they're doing differently. People are willing to share information. Just because they're your competitor doesn't mean they won't share what they're doing that might be enhancing their experience that you could also offer as well. And they might vice versa ask you for some information as well. So I get out there, I look at the inventory, I also check out to see, I call people, I check out social media to see what other markets. So I sometimes step out of my own market, look to see what other people are doing differently. Okay, so say Delaware or the Poconos or wherever I'm talking about, I want to see what people are doing in this market, but then also see what they're doing in other markets to see what I can bring and set
Sure.
set myself apart from other people.
Right.
So I think that's important, is always making sure you're elevating the experience, or just making sure you check out the competition and making sure you're always doing things to improve. Because I think some people just stay status quo and they don't really enhance and change and do things, but you have to, with the world we live in now, you've got to make improvements I don't want to say daily, but you have to make monthly, yearly improvements to really elevate your game.
Right. So check out and know what your competition's doing. Stay on top and elevate your game as
Mhm.
on a regular basis. And put it in your budget to hire a property manager. Those are the three things
Mhm.
that are hitting my top of mind there. And then what sites do you use? Do you use specific sites? What do you go on to check out your competition, or what do you go on to check out what people are doing in different locations?
Good question. So I do obviously look on Airbnb, VRBO. Our property manager, I believe he uses Guesty that syndicates to everywhere out there, all the different websites. I go on bookings.com. I'm trying to think of all the different websites. Bookings.com does syndicate. A lot of websites do syndicate with that. Now in the Delaware Beach market, it's a little different. Not everyone's on Airbnb and VRBO down here. A lot of people are listed with brokerages, and you have to go to every different brokerage's website, believe it or not, down here, and you have to see what inventory they have. So you have to go on their specific websites. However, brokers also do use Airbnb, VRBO, because those are the standard two most common
Yeah.
portals out there. I do look at Zillow too. I look to see, like, people do have short-term rentals on Zillow sometimes. It's hard to really advertise on Zillow because there's really not a lot of features or way to filter out to show furnished short-term in the search. But I do check out Zillow to see, because I know what houses are on short-term rentals. So I sometimes go on websites to see Zillow to see what people are doing differently, or see what people are on, who's on there. But mainly Airbnb, VRBO, bookings.com, Guesties, the portal website they use. And I'm trying to think of a couple other ones that we use offhand. But those are the main ones, I would say, especially for this
Okay.
market.
Okay. So you're checking those out and then evaluating off of that.
Yes.
And then is that how you set your nightly rate as well?
You also can look at AirDNA. I forgot to mention that. AirDNA has been a great tool as well. I look on there. I don't use it as my end all be all perfect estimator, but I use that. I look at my competition. I go on Airbnb and VRBO and I see what the average is. And that's what I do use that. There's another tool my property manager was showing us that we're implementing, and he's implementing as well, that he has some extra tool that he can look at and compare properties within his portal and his software he has, which is why we're hiring him, because he has some extra access to software that I like knowing about all this stuff, but sometimes I'm like, it's his wheelhouse.
Okay.
So I ask him, hey, where should we be? But I do use the main websites and check to see what the competition is. But I know he has extra software that I do look at as well. But yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's great. That's great. Okay. So just to switch gears here a little bit, and I want to give some of your advice and lessons learned to some agents that are looking to build a sustainable business. What are some key strategies that you found to be successful that they could implement right away?
Okay. I would say not to, I would say social media, number one, be active in the community, post pretty regularly, post a lot, post relative content people want to see as number one. Be active with social media. Two, I would say know your local market. A lot of people now, farming is like an old term we used to use back in the day, but I think farming is really important. Farming your local market and really being hyper local is important now. People are looking for someone specific to a region. So local content and hyper local farming is important nowadays because hyper local is what people look for. And then also, I would say use your sphere. Your sphere is there to support you. Don't be afraid to call people. Don't be afraid to connect with people. Ask for referrals. Get out there. People want to work with people they know and trust, and the people that know and trust you the most is your sphere. And you really have to stay top of mind with them. And the only way of staying top of mind is by communicating with them. So staying in touch with people is most important. Staying
Love that.
active.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Is there one thing that you would share with our listeners as a whole that would change their lives or their business in terms of financial freedom?
I would say one of my life lessons I've learned is house hacking is number one. I wish I would have started sooner. I wish I would have bought a multifamily years ago when I first got started. House hacking is one way of getting you to financial freedom sooner. So whether that be, say you are renting a house and you're house hacking where you're in charge of the lease and you have renters living with you, or you buy a house and you rent out rooms to friends, or whatever the situation may be. House hacking is the easiest and the fastest way to financial freedom, in my opinion. People, you always have to have a place to crash and lay your head every night. Why not use that as leverage and make money off the space that you're not utilizing or using every day? So I know it's not going to work for everyone's situation. Some people want to have their own space, they don't like to share. But if you're able to share, say, even a house, or if you want to buy a multifamily where you want to have your own space, but then house hack and make income from other units, that's what I would have done. I wish I would have bought I wish I would have bought multiple multifamilies when I was first getting in the business years ago, because that would have changed my life drastically at this point. But yeah,
That's great.
so
That's great. I appreciate that. And yeah, don't we all look back and say, wow, you know what? Look at how much that's going for now. I wish I
yeah,
would have bought that. We thought about buying that, or I looked at that. Like I really considered it. And
but it shoulda, woulda.
you got it. That's right. That's right. So thank you so much. That's wonderful. I wonderful tips for our listeners here. And if anyone wants to discuss the Delaware Beach market, benefits for buyers, sellers, investors looking to take on a short-term rental or a long-term rental or whatever that is, I highly recommend that they reach out to Lindsay Good here. And how will they reach you, Lindsay?
You can reach me by phone, email, old school way, or social media. I'm Lindsay Good Realtor on social media handles, and that's probably the easiest way. So
That's great. Thank you so much for being on today. I really
thank
appreciate it.
you. No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. That's a wrap on this episode of Pending and Trending, where hot meets what's happening in real estate. If you found today's conversation helpful, we'd love for you to hit follow or subscribe, leave a quick review, and share the episode with fellow agent or industry pro. Got a trend, tip, or hot take we should be talking about? Send it our way, and we might feature it in an upcoming episode. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, stay sharp, keep your transactions in motion, and let your energy keep trending.